Hello there and welcome to Black Jackal Gaming. We're going to take a look at the leaked Kroot detachment, which is called the Kroot Hunting Pack and can be found in one of the 4 detachments in the new Codex Tau. Now within this detachment, the detachment rule, enhancements and stratagems are all locked to Kroot models. There's a disappointing lack of AP throughout all the units for Kroot, and there's a lack of high strength and damage weapons as well. It's difficult to see how successful this can be on the tabletop. So looking at the details of the detachment rule is called Hunter's Instinct. What this allows you to do, each time a Kroot model within your army makes an attack, if it's targeting a unit that's below starting strength, you get +1 to the hit roll, which is actually quite nice. And if it's below half strength, you get +1 to the wound roll. So it's a decent detachment buff to begin with. It comes with 4 enhancements as standard, and these can all be put on characters within your army. The first one is Kroot Hawk Flock, and this allows ranged weapons within the unit that the character is leading to gain ignores cover, so your enemy units don't benefit from cover. And enemy units can also not set up from reserve or strategic reserve within 12 inches of the unit, which is really nice. It allows you to do a lot of movement blocking and contest the board and force your opponent to foot slog straight to you. The second one is called Nomadic Hunter, and this is for the Trail Shaper only. So when you're leading a unit, the unit gains 3 inches to their movement, and all the weapons gain the assault keyword as well. So you're already quite fast being a Kroot army. An additional 3 inches and gaining the assault keyword so you can advance and shoot is quite nice. It's a nice little buff that you can have. The third enhancement is called Root Carved Weapons, and this can only be put on the War Shaper. So this is for the model only. So when you put this on the War Shaper, he alone gains precision and devastating on all of his weapons. Now the War Shaper is the captain of your army and he can join multiple units. However, he will only gain this buff. And finally we have Borthrod Gland. This is for the Flesh Shaper only. When the Flesh Shaper is leading a unit, that unit gains critical hits of 5+ in melee, which is quite a nice little. As you can see, disappointingly, 3 of the enhancements are locked to individual characters, so there's very little flexibility to be had from the enhancements. Apart from Kroot Hawk Flock, that's the only one that you can take throughout all the characters. Just to note as well that Kroot Hawk Flock can only be taken on Kroot models. So for stratagems, they come with 6, as all detachments do in 10th edition. The first one up, we have Join the Hunt. This one's quite reminiscent of Genestealer Hunt, so when you've got a unit that has been destroyed, you can place this unit in strategic reserves and it will be at starting strength. It will not regenerate any characters that are attached to it though, so you're probably best off taking this on maybe a Kroot Carnivore because you will get a 20-man unit back, which is quite handy. Next up we have a Trap Well Laid. What this one allows you to do during a fight or a shooting phase, you can target one of your units with this. Now when it hits an enemy unit, this unit can then be selected to grant additional AP for the rest of the phase for any other Kroot units that are targeting this unit. So it's a good way to add additional AP for a specific target for the rest of your army, because you are lacking in AP a little bit with Kroot. Next up we have the EMP Grenade. So this is quite a nice one and it's targeting vehicles. So when they're within 8 inches of you, you can use this strat and it worsens the weapon skill and ballistic skill of that unit by 1 in the shooting or fight phase, which is really nice. Next up we have a Grizzly Feast, which is quite a nice little stratagem. If you manage to get one of your units within 6 inches of a fair few of your opponent's units, you can, in their command phase, force a battle shock test for every unit within 6 inches. This is really nice as it's a way to potentially take objectives and board control away from your opponent and stop them from using stratagems if they fail their battle shock test. So that's quite a nice one to use and something for your opponent to worry about. Next we have a Guerrilla Warriors. This allows a unit to fall back and in that turn still be able to shoot and charge, which is quite nice. Finally, we have Hidden Hunters. Once you are targeted by an enemy unit for a ranged attack, you can use this stratagem and it prevents this unit from being targeted by any ranged attacks from outside of 12 inches, which is quite nice. Allows you to push a unit forward, have it isolate a part of the board and be difficult to actually target. I think these are a nice mix of stratagems. They're going to be quite fun to play. There's lots of ways here to debuff your opponent as well as buffing yourself. There's some movement shenanigans. And that nice during the hunt to give yourself basically an additional unit for the game is really nice. They've done a good job with these stratagems. Looking at the data sheets, I'll give you some of my thoughts on them. I'm not going to share the data sheets with you because the codex isn't out yet, and we want to leave a little bit of magic there and surprise for you for when they arrive. So as you've probably seen, the Shaper is no more. He is being split into his 3 different variations. So you do have the Flesh, the War, and the Trail Shaper. So the split between them is quite nice. One of them, the War Shaper, is basically you're a captain, and then you've got another one to add melee buffs, and the final one to add movement buffs. So they're quite a nice little combination that you can have. The Rampage is the new melee unit, and it does look fantastic. The datasheet is decent enough. It's got plenty of melee attacks with some extra attacks in there as well, which is quite nice. And it's got a really nice mortal wound ability. So these guys are probably going to see a lot of play, depending on the points when they release. Now, Kroot Carnivores are Kroot Carnivores. They are what you expect them to be. You can take them in a unit of up to 20. And they've got a nice little ability here where you can have 2 leaders join them if there's 20 in the squad. They've also got an ability for sticky objectives, which is always well appreciated. The Farstalkers, which were the ones that were released with Kill Team, they essentially just look like veteran carnivores. They come with a couple of Kroot Hounds, which is really nice to make the squad a bit bigger. They can only have 10 of the carnivores in it. And they do have a couple of weapons upgrades, so they've got a little bit more variation and some harder hitting weapons than the standard carnivores. Finally, the Kroot Lone Spear looks interesting. He's got a decent melee option, and there's a couple of buffing and movement abilities in there, which are quite nice. You can take the long gun, but it looks a bit meh for the points. It's relatively low in strength and AP, and it is only the one shot. Even though it has better ballistic skill, the one shot for the points that they currently have is really not worth taking, so you're better off with the melee option, which has a decent range option as well, which is quite a high strength. It's a nice looking model. The abilities are quite nice. Whether it'll see the tabletop with the price point at the moment, it will remain to be seen. So overall, I think the detachment looks quite good. The rule is really good, allowing you to have that additional +1 to hit and wound. The enhancements are quite good and very thematic. They suit it quite well. The stratagems look really fun, and they're going to see a lot of play on the tabletop. There's not really any stinkers in there. I think they've done a good job on the stratagems. The war gear could probably do with some of the restrictions removed from them, from the enhancements, to make them a little bit more flexible. It might get a bit boring too quickly with the restrictions currently in place. I think the data sheet is where it's getting let down at the moment. Once it's out, and you'll see that there's such a lack of AP. Almost everything in the codex has basically 0 or maybe 1 AP at best. There's 1 or 2 weapons that has 2 AP. The strength is relatively low, mostly 4s and 5s. So there's not really a lot in there. There's not much high damage weapons. You're not really getting past 2 or 3 damage. There's only really the 1 mortal wound ability. You're going to have a lot of struggle doing damage with this army unless you are going into very hoardy armies. Anything that's bringing any form of anti-tank, you're going to struggle into. There is a weapon that does have anti-vehicle, so it negates the lack of strength in the weapon, but it is only damage 1. So you're really going to struggle with the high toughness, high wound armies to get through. Now, saying that, it does have a lot of movement shenanigans. It is going to be able to get on the board, score points, contest objectives, and it's got those nice stratagems. It's got abilities to put things into reserves and not count as towards your total reserves you can have. So you've got a lot of flexibility. You've got a lot of movement, which will be fun to do. But ultimately, it is an army-based game, and if you are struggling to kill your opponent, you are going to have feel bad moments there. You will probably need to bring some of the battle suits just to have a little bit more edge to your shooting, to make sure you can take down those tougher targets. But unfortunately, they won't benefit from the detachment at all, which is a shame. Now, apart from one detachment, which is basically locked to battle suits, the other 2 detachments, they aren't locked to Tau Battlesuit or Fire Warrior, those types of units. So you can take Kroots and those and get the benefits from the stratagems and from the detachment rules. So there will be play with Kroot. There are some decent units there. There's lots of shenanigans to be had. Whether you take them in the crew detachment, will remain to be seen. I think it'll be a fun one, especially in casual games. It'd be really fun to play. When it comes to the actual competitive game, it might be a bit lacking at the moment, especially with the points in the codex, which are exceedingly on the high side. There needs to be a drastic come down in points, 10-20% across the board for all the units, really, especially the leading units. They don't offer an awful lot for the points value at the moment. So out of the gate, they might struggle a bit. You'll have fun, but you might struggle, which is a shame. Check out these other videos. If you liked what you see, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, pop across to Patreon where we get some free blogging and memes, and join the fun. I'll see you next time.